Swayam Prabha. Digital India. Educated India.
So, good morning. Now, what we have seen in the first lecture was that what is performance, okay, and we also tried to define performance management. In the process, we examined that yes, individual performance is very important, because individual performance contribute to the goals and objectives of the organization, okay, and we also looked into it that it is a continuous process. Okay. So, every time you are going to perform, you are going to measure against a set standard and see whether you have been able to achieve that level of performance or not, right. This is true for individual, groups and organizations. Okay. So, the three factors that we have identified is that it is a continuous process, it should be aligned with the goals and objectives of the organization, okay. It should contribute to that the goals and objectives of the organization, and it is measured against set standards, right. So, with this definition we are moving to the next lecture, and we will see that why we move to a good performance management system. Now, when I am talking about the aim and purpose, we must look into the benefits that it creates for individual, groups and organizations, and why we need to have a good performance management system. In this case, we will start with in what way a good performance management contributes to the organization. Now, if you look at these points, some of them may be applicable to the individual, some of them may be applicable to the supervisors or the groups, and some of them are going to be applicable to what you call the organization. Now, if you look at these some of these factors like higher motivation to perform, because if you have a good performance management system, people know what are the set standards against which they are going to perform, and they know that okay, this is what they need to achieve. So, this and you have provided them all the resources, infrastructure and support, probably that would help an individual to perform better. So, the idea is to encourage and motivate people to perform well. Okay. So, if you are going to have a good performance management system, the idea is that you need to ensure that how it is going to contribute to better performance, and it is possible only if they are really motivated to perform well. As you have seen, and we also discussed that motivation is one of the important factors contributing to better performance of the individual. Look at the another factor, high self esteem. Okay. It means that if you are able to realize your goals and objectives against the set criteria, you feel better, okay, because you think that yes, you have achieved something which you were striving for. So, this gives you some kind of self satisfaction, you feel better. Not only that, you feel that you have been recognized, okay, and you have been able to meet the challenges, okay, and then you can see that yes, this is how you have been contributing to the goals and objectives of the organization. So, that contributes to better self realization, and then you have a higher self esteem, right. Similarly, for line managers, you see what happens, what is the contribution of performance management is that performance management systems give line managers an idea that okay, what needs to be done with the subordinates, so that they are able to perform well, because performance management systems provide a clear guideline about the standards, the time frame, the criteria against which they would be evaluated, what kind of things would be required, what kind of knowledge and skill base would be required by the subordinates, okay, so that they are able to assess all this to ensure that subordinates are going to contribute to better performance, right. Moving to next point, that it also provides role clarity, because you know exactly what you are going to do to perform well, right, and that is possible only if you have a clear job definition and job description. What I mean to say here is that suppose you are going to perform a job and you do not have a job description. Job description means the duties and responsibilities are not well defined. So, you do not know what is to be done, your role is not clear. So, if your role is not clear, whatever you do, you do not know whether it is going to contribute to your performance or not. So, if you have a performance management system in place, it basically makes it necessary to ensure that you have a clear job definition, which means that your job is well defined. You also know what are your duties and responsibilities, okay, and in what way it is going to contribute to the goals and objectives of the organization. Okay. Now, another important point is setting goals and standards. Okay. When we say that setting goals and standards, basically it is a participatory process. The individual itself is not going to set the goals and objectives, but individual in consultation with the line managers participate in the performance management system process, so that they get an idea, okay, what kind of system we need to develop, in what way it is going to help us to realize our goals and objectives in terms of improving our performance. Not only that, it will also see to it that how we are going to contribute to the goals and objectives of the organization. So, it provides better self insight to the individuals. It also helps them to develop by participating in the systems, so that they understand, okay, we have this kind of system in place and how we are going to contribute using the system for improvement and betterment of the individual, group and performance. Now, if you have a system which is much more fair and transparent, then a good performance management system need to ensure that it has those characteristics which could be called fair, because if the system is not fair, then when it comes to evaluation or measurement of performance, you will not be able to do justice with that one. So, when I am going to talk about fair, it means that whether you are able to do justice with evaluating the performance of the people or not, because if you have a clear cut performance management system, it means that you have already defined set and standards which is to be achieved, and the people's performance is going to be evaluated against those set and standards, right. So, the idea here is that you make sure that in the performance of the individual is evaluated against those set and standards, okay, what you call the criteria of evaluation. And if you are going to do it in that way, probably you are going to be much more fair and transparent to your employees, because this evaluation or what you call measurement of the performance is also linked with reward, taking certain administrative decisions whether to promote or whether to reward an employee or not. So, if you are not having a fair system and transparent system, then at the first hand you will not be able to evaluate or measure their performance properly, and then how would you link it with reward system or any other administrative action that you want to take related to the individual employees, right. The next point is that you should have a clear organizational goals. Okay. A performance management system not only specifies individual performance that is to be achieved by individual, but it also specifies the goals and objectives in concrete goals, that okay, this is what we need to achieve and how individual and group are going to contribute to that organizational goal. So, when you are going to have a clear organizational goal, it should be very specific and clear, okay, this is what the organization needs to achieve, and that percolates down into the department and individual goals and objectives. So, you need to clarify goals at different levels, individual level and the group level, which contribute to the organizational goal. So, a good performance management system contributes to create goals at different levels, okay. And then you also need to ensure that people who are going to perform, that is our next point, are competent enough. You remember I have been talking about a point, that is ability. Okay. If you are not able to perform well in terms of the knowledge and skill that you should have in order to perform well, then what will happen? You will not be able to contribute. Okay. So, a good performance management system also ensures that there is a better job person fit. It means that you need to ensure that people who are going to perform have those qualities in terms of knowledge and skill, which is going to help them to perform well. Okay. And that is how the system ensures that there is a better job fit, and if there is a better job fit, then the people would be competent enough to perform well in the organization. Now, moving to the next point is, if you are not able to have a good performance system in place, what will happen? You do not have a set of standards, you do not know what is to be achieved by the individual or group at the organization, you have not set a time frame. So, if you are not going to have a good performance management system in place, or you have a performance management system which is poorly managed and implemented, then it will have different kind of problems. Okay. Because you are not going to see that what people have performed. Okay. So, people may not be happy and satisfied with these kind of things, and people are not going to be happy and satisfied with these kind of things. What will happen? They would leave the organization. So, there is a possibility of increased turnover. Okay. There is a lot of ambiguity so far as role is concerned. Okay. You are not giving them a clear communication about their set as standards, what they are not supposed to achieve. So, you basically mislead them so far as information is concerned related to what? What are the standards, what is the time frame, what would be the criteria against which the performance is to be evaluated. So, against all these parameters you will not be able to improve them well, right. Then if a person does not know what is performance, what happens? He does not understand whether he has contributed well or not, and if he understands or he thinks that his contribution is not significant, then it lowers down his self esteem. Okay. He looks at him someone who is not worth doing certain things, and that basically lowers his motivation, his morale and all kind of things. Okay. And similarly, if you do not have a set standard and time and you keep on performing, probably you are going to use more input to create the same level of output. Okay. And in the process what happens? You are also going to waste lot of time and energy in doing the similar things. So, the idea here is that if you have a good performance management system, it means set standards, clear goals at the individual and group level, time frame is decided, you know how you are going to evaluate, there are clear job descriptions, everybody knows what is supposed to be done, right. So, in the process what happens? You are going to save your time and energy as well as others. I know what exactly you are going to do. So, you are not going to waste your time and energy in doing certain things which are unproductive in nature, which does not contribute as the input to output, and that is how your productivity would be affected. Okay. Similarly, if it does not happen and if you do not know what is your performance level, the relationship between the line managers and others may be affected. Okay. Because as a supervisor, if you do not have a clear direction about your goals and you do not get support and resources from your line managers, then what will happen? You think that your manager is not supporting you. Okay. So, this may also damage your relationship at different levels, right. Similarly, if you are not understanding what is the level of performance that you need to achieve, what is the criteria, then again it demotivates you to perform, because you think that this performance management system is not linked with reward system, it is not going to help you to grow and develop yourself, it does not contribute to organizational performance, and if you are thinking along these lines, it means what? That it is going to demotivate you to perform, because things are not clear to you. Similarly, it also create burnout and dissatisfaction. So, you ultimately what happens? You are demotivated, your relationship goes down, your self esteem goes down, you do not have clarity about what is to be done, how it is to be done, you do not know what your expectations are from your supervisors, you do not get necessary support and resources for performing your job. So, you feel dissatisfied with the job, right. Similarly, you get burned out because you have lot of stress, because you are not clear about lot of things. And then when your performance is evaluated, because evaluation is a part of the performance management system, because evaluation shows how well you have performed. So, in this evaluation what actually happens, that if you are evaluated poorly by your supervisor, then you also go against it, and you may even file a case in the court of law, or you also complain to the senior managers that this how I have performed well, but my supervisors have rated me badly. So, the idea is that if everything is clear, so it would reduce the risk of any kind of complaint, litigation, or any kind of things that might happen in the future. And that is why it is very important that you should have a effective performance appraisal system in place. The idea here is that if you have an effective performance appraisal management system in place, so you have a clear standards, you have clear roles, job definitions defined, you know that when it is to be achieved, Okay. The goals and objectives are also defined against which your performance is measured. Okay. So, if you have all these things, what will happen? It would make sure that you are fair and just in your evaluations, and if it is not, then even the performance evaluations would vary. Okay. You are using certain standards which cannot be fair, or you are not going to do justice with your evaluation process against set standards. Okay. And then ultimately it lead to certain biases on the part of the individual as well as supervisors both. So, supervisor is going to be biased in the sense that they think that since there is no clear cut guidelines for rating, there is no clear cut standards against which performance is evaluated. So, whatever they are going to do is not going to be very useful for the individual, and then individual also think that the supervisor is being biased when it comes to evaluation in the absence of a criteria led evaluation. So, if there is a criteria led evaluation, then there is no problem, because the supervisor knows that okay, this is the criteria, this is what the individual is supposed to do, expectations are communicated to the individual, so that they know what they are supposed to achieve. But if these things are not clear, it would create lot of biases on the part of the supervisors. And another issue is related to the rating system, that how are going to measure the performance. Okay. So, there could be a lot of methodologies that we will talk about later, basically whether you are going to measure them qualitatively or quantitatively. So, you need to ensure that you are going to measure the performance in a way which is acceptable to everyone in the organization, and for that you need to have a very clear rating system which is fair, just and transparent. Moving further, we also need to discuss what is the role of HR in the performance management system. Okay. Though HR is not going to evaluate the performance, but it is going to manage the entire process. Line managers are involved in the process of evaluating the performance, but which is basically a component or subset of the entire performance management system. But now, if you look at the performance management system, it is the responsibility of HR to ensure that when you are going to plan about the performance, everyone participates, including the employees or the subordinates, right. So, it is the responsibility of the HR in defining what is to be achieved, right, in consultation with the line managers. So, they are going to be involved in the planning process when it comes to performance management system. So, they also participate in the process of identifying and creating a good performance management system. Now, HR is also involved in job analysis, because job analysis gives you a data or input for performance planning. How? Because job analysis basically tells you what are your duties and responsibilities, okay, and these duties and responsibilities have to be ensured from the individual, and it is dependent upon his knowledge and skill base. So, basically by doing this job analysis, the HR managers ensure that there is a better fit between the job and the person, and if there is a better fit in the job person, then person knows what are his duties and responsibilities, okay, which would contribute to his performance. Okay. So, these are the things that I have to do. Further, he is also going to look into it that okay, this is the performance standard that has been identified, and in the process the HR managers may also be involved, and then they are going to support this kind of system by providing all kind of infrastructure and resources which is required to the line managers, right. And similarly, it is the responsibility of the HR managers to devise a good appraisal system, which is a part of performance management system. So, when I am talking about the appraisal system, means that how they are going to evaluate the performance of the people, because evaluation is a part of the management process itself. So, when it comes to evaluation, they need to ensure that the process is fair and just, it is transparent, and people have faith and trust in this kind of system, and it is the responsibility of the HR managers. Similarly, HR managers also have responsibility to train and support line managers to ensure that they know that how they are going to administer or implement a good performance management system in the place, because it is a process where everybody is going to participate, line managers, HR managers, the employees. So, they have to support managers and also train them on how to evaluate, so that they are not biased. Remember we talked about these points: biasness, unfair ratings, unfair standards. So, if the managers are trained, probably they would be able to better implement a good performance management system. Similarly, it is also the responsibility of HR managers to maintain documents. So, all the performance data and records are archived by the HR department. So, when line managers get this kind of data related to the performance of the people, they are supposed to send it to HR department for archiving, because at any point of time, if there is any issue or there is any complaint by an individual that his performance has not been evaluated, you have to have documentation to prove that yes, this is the data and the record which shows what is your level of performance. So, it also reduces the risk of litigation. So, that you are not going to complain it to the management or higher authorities regarding the evaluation process, regarding the rating, regarding the standards. Okay. So, if everything is well documented and it is with the HR managers, HR manager is going to support this process by maintaining and managing these performance related documents, and then it is made available to the individuals to ensure that they are able to make use of it, and it reduces the risk of litigation also. Okay. And they also tell employees what is the process, how they are going to carry out their job through which they are going to be effective. So, in this process they engage employees to make them understand the performance management process, and at each stage, starting with the planning, execution and implementation, they need to be involved, so that they understand the process better. And if you have a good and effective performance management system which have all these characteristics, okay, then what will happen? As a HR manager, you would be able to provide basically trust and belief among the people who are going to make use of the system. Okay. And if people have faith and belief in the system, it would increase the integrity of the HR system in the organization, right. Similarly, you are also going to make sure that you are going to comply with all rules and regulations, and you need to ensure that you are not going to discriminate people based on the system, because if you are going to discriminate between poor and say good performance, you have evidence to show, you have documents to show which suggests that okay, this on this basis the performance has been evaluated, this is your performance which could be termed as poor or good. Okay. So, any kind of non discriminatory practices that you are going to adopt is not going to be taken to the court of law. So, it is very, very important to ensure that how HR is going to participate in the performance management process. Now, if you look at the objective of a good performance management system, okay, it includes strategic, administrative, developmental, information, maintenance and documentation. Okay. So, now what we are going to discuss various purposes for which you are going to have a good performance management system. So, to start with, what we did, we started defining performance, then we looked into performance management system. We also saw that what could be a good performance management system, what is the role of HR in a good performance management system. Now, we are going to see it further and expand to see that okay, these are the objectives for which you are going to have a performance management system. Okay. So, we will discuss it one by one. So, we start with the first one, that is the strategic purpose, that why you need to have a good performance management system. Okay. So, first purpose is strategic purpose. Strategic purpose means that you develop a strategy or a action plan to see that how individual goals are going to contribute to the goals and objectives of the organization. Okay. So, the top management is concerned with what? It is concerned with the goals and objectives of the organization, right, and the goals and objectives of the organization can be achieved only when individuals are performing well, and individual performance is aligned with the goals and objectives of the organization, right, and that is why it has a strategic purpose, right. And it also has a very important role in the onboarding process. The onboarding process is that when an employee joins in the organization as an outsider, okay, and then he goes through the process to understand the issues, so that ultimately he becomes an insider. So, onboarding helps an employee to have a smooth transition from being an outsider to an insider in the organization. Okay. And if he is not going to be insider, what will happen? He will not be able to perform. He does not know what are the standards, what are the things that he has to do, how to achieve this performance level. Okay. So, this smooth transition to understand these issues related to performance is very very important, and that is where this onboarding process has an important role to play, and that is where he is going to help it. Okay. And similarly, he is also going, top management is also going to communicate what kind of behaviors are and results are expected from the employees. So, this is a top down communication where you are going to tell about your goals and objectives, which is to be achieved by the organization, and in the process what are the goals and objectives that an individual should have, and how their behavior and outcomes are going to help you to achieve this is communicated by the top management, and they are told that okay, it is very very significant, and they are also told that if you are going to achieve these kind of behavior and results, then it would be rewarded. Okay. And the employees through this onboarding process are also able to understand the kind of culture and norms, the value system that organization has, so that they understand whether this kind of culture is going to support them, okay, to ensure that they are able to achieve these goals, okay, in order to achieve the strategic objectives of the organization. Moving from strategic objectives, we move to another objective, that is administrative purposes. You know that you take lot of decision based upon the performance of the individuals, okay, which is a part of the performance management system itself. So, any kind of performance management system provide information related to administrative decisions. You will take lot of administrative decisions based on the performance outcomes of the individual, which include promotions, rewards, retention, or even terminations, or recognizing superior performance. So, based on the performance data, you can find out whether the person has performed well or not. Okay. And based on this performance record, you take certain administrative decisions, whether to reward them, whether to promote them, or whether to ask them to leave the organization. So, these kind of administrative decisions are also taken based on performance data, right. Similarly, you are also able to identify who are the people who are not able to perform well, okay. So that you decide that okay, what you are going to do with them. Are you going to leave them, ask them to leave, or are you going to do something so that they are able to improve their performance. Okay. So, all kind of administrative decisions are also taken based on what you call the performance, this administrative purposes. Moving to the next one, that is the information purpose. Okay. It also serves as a good communication device, okay, because the system tells or communicates down the line everyone what they are supposed to do, okay, right, how they are going to do it. Okay. So, they are going to provide specific information to each and everyone, so that they are able to improve their performance. Okay. And this is not only regarding the organization and the supervisor expectations, but also about their own expectations, their own standards which is to be achieved, right. So, it also acts as a communication device, as I told you. In the process, it is going to help you to understand, or you are able to know what are your expectations from the supervisors, what are the supervisor expectations, what organization expects from you, okay. And then it is communicated. Basically, what is communicated is expectations and the standards that need to be achieved by the individual, group and organizations at different level. Okay. So, that is what we call the information purpose. Moving next to is the developmental purpose. See, for any kind of performance management system, feedback is a very important issue, right, because feedback helps you to take certain corrective actions. But when you are going to talk about administrative purposes, the idea is that you need to ensure whether you are going to use this performance data only for administrative purposes, or you are going to ensure that based on the strength and weaknesses, you are going to plan certain interventions in terms of training and development or other things to ensure that people are able to improve their performance further. Okay. So, based on the performance feedback, you are able to identify the strength and weaknesses, okay, and you are able to identify what are the reasons for bad performance, why the performance is not up to the expected mark, and then you go for analyzing it to know the reason behind this. So, once you are able to identify the reason for the bad performance, then what you do? You take certain corrective actions. So, the idea is not to vindicate an employee, but idea is to see that how this employee can be groomed further, so that he is able to achieve expected level of performance, right. And for that you are going to coach him, you are going to train him, so that he is able to improve with the performance. So, when we are talking about the developmental purpose, the idea is that you create a culture to identify the strength and weaknesses of the people based on the performance data, analyze the regions, and then take certain corrective actions to improve the performance, right. For example, suppose you come to know that employee is not able to perform because he has lost interest and motivation. Okay. So, then you it means that it is not a case of what you call knowledge and ability factor. So, there is something else, that is motivation is missing. So, you have to intervene to ensure that the person is motivated enough to perform, right. So, instead of taking certain actions which are administrative in nature, you are going to take a developmental approach to grow the employee, right, so that he is able to perform well in the next course of action. Moving, another important thing is maintaining the organization. Okay. Maintaining the organization, because you know you are, once you have defined performance level at each every level and you have linked it with the outcome of the organization, you know what is to be achieved, and in order to achieve that level of outcome, what kind of people would be required. Okay. So, it also helps you to identify the number and the quality of people which would be required, okay. Because performance management systems also provide lot of input in manpower planning, or what you call workforce planning. And when we are talking about workforce planning, it is nothing else that you will be able to identify how many people with what quality would require, so that you are able to achieve the target or the levels of performance that is required at different levels, right. And then accordingly you decide who is going to do what to reach to that level of performance, right. And then another objective it serves is that the kind of people that you have, you also see that whether they have the kind of knowledge and skill which is required. So, you can identify their training needs, okay. You can see what is the performance at the organization level, okay. And whether these interventions which are planned by the organization in terms of learning and development is going to be effective or not. So, for all these purposes, basically also you can see that you are going to use this performance management system. Now, moving to this 4 Ds of performance management. Now, if you look at it, it says that it is into 4 different quadrants. So, we start with the define. If you remember, we started with defining the performance management system, okay. That is what actually you want to achieve, right, in terms of performance. So, what you do? You define your job, you clear your role, you set your standards, okay, because that will be used to review your performance, okay. So, that you are using certain metrics or performance indicators to see what level of performance you are achieving, okay. So, in order to see that, you need to set your standards against which your performance is to be measured. You need to define what exactly you are going to do and what is the expected performance level, right. Next is document it. Okay. We have already talked about this point, but again I am mentioning here because it is very important. So, you need to create a record of the performance that is achieved by the individual, because if you will not document it, then how are you going to measure it. Okay. So, documentation helps you to see that whether your performance level has achieved the target level or not, and if it has not achieved the target level, it means that you have not able to do justice with your performance. Okay. The next stage is discuss. What does it mean? It means that once you come to know, okay, this is your performance level, you are going to provide feedback to the employees, right. The idea of feedback is that you review the performance and see that what are the problems or issues with your performance, okay. Whether you need to take certain interventions in terms of learning and development, or the other issues because of which your performance is not good, whether the management and the line managers or resources are supportive, whether the climate and structure was supporting or not, okay. Whether the external environment was good or bad. So, when you are going to discuss about it, you need to ensure that these factors which contribute effectively to performance is discussed during the review with your managers. And finally, based on this you are going to develop yourself. So, the idea here is that once you have identified your goals, okay, you got feedback, okay, so you understand, okay, what you need to do in the next cycle. Okay. This develop is not for the current cycle, because whatever has happened has happened. Now, you have to think about the next cycle of performance. So, in the next cycle of performance, what you are going to do, that how you are going to manage your performance well. So, based on the feedback and the analysis that has gone through in the past cycle, you are going to set your agenda for the next performance cycle, okay, and see that how you need to improve, or what are the other opportunities are the areas where you need to grow, and see that it is going to help you to achieve the expected performance level, right. Moving further, okay, so we are going to stop it here. Thank you.